For those who, for some reason, don't know, I am an actor. Now, while I haven't done any acting in a while, a problem I hope to soon remedy, there are still a number of parts that I really want to play. So this list that you are now watching is my top 15 dream musical roles. A couple of things of note to point out before the list begins. One, I am limiting myself to one role per musical because there are multiple roles in each musical that I would like to play, and I want to include as many musicals as possible. And two, this is very specifically dream roles that I haven't played yet. When I first compiled this list for the possibility of making this video, I included The Cat in the Hat, which is a part that I have now played, so it will no longer be on this list. And also a quick thing that I am just now adding that wasn't written in the original script that I have over here. There will also be some spoilers for some of the musicals ahead, so be aware of that. And these roles are in no particular order until the last three. So without further ado, here are my top 15 dream musical roles. Number 15. Donkey from Shrek the Musical. I am starting with one here that I was originally hesitant to include. I'm hoping to at some point put out another list of the top 15 dream musical roles that I will never play, and I was debating whether or not to include this one on that list or on this one. And the reason for this is because the original Donkey in the movie was played by Eddie Murphy. And so the original Broadway Donkey was portrayed by an African American, as was a donkey in a performance that I saw. However, I ultimately came to the conclusion that this is an anthropomorphized donkey, so the race of the actor probably doesn't matter as much. Therefore, it's here on this list. I really enjoyed the character of Donkey, as evidenced by the fact that I've sung 2 songs from Shrek the Musical on this channel, and both of them heavily feature Donkey. He is the ultimate plucky sidekick, sticking with Shrek even when Shrek makes it very clear that he doesn't want him around. Donkey also has his more serious moments, connecting with Shrek on a more personal level at the end of Act 1, and finally standing up to him near the end of Act 2, calling him out on his BS. He's just a very enjoyable character. Number 14. Mayor Shinn from Music Man. This is the only character on this list that doesn't sing at any point in the musical, or at least he never sings by himself. So you may be wondering why I, a person who loves to sing as much as he does, would have this character on this list as opposed to, say, Marcellus Washburn, who I also considered putting on this list. Well, I just love how curmudgeonly he is. Throughout this entire musical, he is all kinds of grumpy. From the moment Harold Hill enters his town to the end of the musical, he's just really never happy. And looking back on this character for this list, I'm realizing that I may have somewhat subconsciously based Jeffrey on Mayor Shinn just a little bit. Plus, Mayor Shinn just has a, shall we say, unique way of speaking that I think would just be a blast to perform. Number 13. Leopold Bloom from The Producers. Leopold Bloom is a bundle of nervous energy. He can barely function in the outside world, which makes his pairing with Max Bialystock even more baffling. But these two, oddly enough, bring out the best in each other. I particularly like the growth of this character. He really grows into his character, becoming more confident in himself. Now that's not to say that nervous energy goes away, but he's able to channel that nervous energy into more successful ventures than just staying at a dead-end job. It's for this reason, and because I just really like playing hysterical characters, that he is on this list. Number 12. El Gallo from the Fantasticks. El Gallo is a mix of narrator and showman. He tells the story to the audience, but he also plays an integral part in the story. He's the one who pushes a lot of the characters forward, allowing the plot to advance. He puts on a show for the characters while allowing the audience to see how he really feels about what's happening on stage. And he is deeply affected by what he's making these characters go through. He does it because he has to. He has a monologue near the end of the show that perfectly sums up why he does what he does and why I personally have him on this list. There's a curious paradox that no one can explain. Who understands the secret of the reaping of the grain? Who understands why spring is born out of winter's laboring pain? Or why we must all die of it before we can grow again? I do not know the answer. I merely know it's true. I hurt them for that reason. And myself a little bit too. Number 11. Amos Hart from Chicago. Out of all the characters from Chicago, Amos Hart is probably the only one who's good, with the possible exception of the Hungarian who didn't do anything wrong but still ended up dying. Amos is the husband of Roxy Hart, one of the show's main protagonists. He is at first very defensive of Roxy, until he found out that the person that she killed was someone that she was having an affair with. Amos goes through a lot of crap in this musical. His wife is having an affair, and then his wife goes to jail for murder, And then she claims she's having a baby, which he at first thinks is his, and then it's told it isn't his, and then it's told that it is his, and then he finds out that there was no baby in the first place. Despite all of this, he never really loses his belief in good. As much as he may see himself as invisible, he never really loses that touch of good inside of him, which is more than we can say for a vast majority of these characters. Number 10. Cogsworth from Beauty and the Beast. Let me tell you, this one was a difficult choice to make. I was debating between Lumiere and Cogsworth, and even while writing this script, I was still switching between these two characters. I ultimately decided on Cogsworth. Part of it is I feel more comfortable doing a British accent than I do a French accent. But also, I think Cogsworth is just different from a lot of the characters that I have on this list. Lumiere is the over-the-top showman. And don't get me wrong, that would be a lot of fun to play. And yet there's something about the stuffy, strict, and yet somehow still goofy Cogsworth that is a lot different from the type of character that I usually play. And sometimes I think it's fun to play against type, and that's why I have him on this list. Number 9. The Balladeer from Assassins. The Balladeer tells the story of the first 3 successful presidential assassins. He has an interesting arc, going from flat out telling Booth that what he did was wrong, to just telling Czolgosz's story, to almost encouraging Guiteau. Although honestly, in the case of Guiteau, a lot of that is because he's just incredibly charismatic, so that's probably more than anything why the Balladeer is more encouraging. He does ultimately sing about how these assassins didn't really end up changing anything despite their attempt to. He sings about the American dream and about how anybody can choose to do anything that they dream of, right before being drowned out by the assassins. And then possibly becoming Lee Harvey Oswald, if you choose to take the script in that direction. And if you don't choose to take the script in that direction, then he just disappears completely. This is a pretty cynical musical. I think one of the things that I really enjoy about this script is the rivalry between the Balladeer and the proprietor. Although this isn't necessarily focused on that much in the musical, it's something that I always notice when I read the script. The proprietor is the one who gives them the weapons in the beginning of the musical and is the one who encourages them to try to be assassins. The Balladeer is very much the optimist, seeing the good in humanity and trying to discourage the assassins from doing what they want to do by pointing out the pointlessness of it. Also, he's played by Neil Patrick Harris in the revival. So I guess I just really want to be Neil, which is certainly true. Number 8. The leading player from Pippin. The leading player is kind of like an evil, more controlling version of El Gallo. He narrates the story of Pippin. And while he doesn't necessarily interact with everyone in the show like El Gallo does, he does interact a lot with Pippin. The leading player has a very specific story in mind. Pippin, the tragic hero, tries to understand life. But it all eventually becomes too much for him, and so to transcend his boring, uncertain life, he sets himself on fire and dies. The leading player will do everything in his power, from just talking with Pippin, trying to encourage him with his words, to completely resetting the timeline, showing that he's able to manipulate time, to accomplish this goal. Seriously, this guy has a horrifying amount of power. I think what I love most about this character is that he is so charismatic, but also so sinister. He puts up a pleasant front, but you can tell there's something darker underneath. And that's why I think this character would be fun to play. Number 7. The Man in Chair from the Drowsy Chaperone. The Man in Chair is a relatively recent addition to this list, since I just recently, relatively speaking, bought this album and listened to it. But I couldn't not include this character. The Man in Chair is telling the audience about his favorite musical, The Drowsy Chaperone. You can tell the passion that he has for this musical as we watch his reactions to the musical as it unfolds. We also find out that the Man in Chair leads a pretty sad life, and musicals allow him to escape from that life. While I personally have not had a sad life, I can still understand that sentiment. Sometimes life gets to be too much and you need to escape for a little bit. And sometimes the easiest way to do that is just to watch a show. Also, I love talking about musicals, which should be obvious, so the fact that there's a part in a musical where a character talks about the musical within the musical is just too good a part to pass up. Also, I just really love breaking the fourth wall. Number 6. Jack from Into the Woods. Into the Woods has a lot of fantastic characters that I would love to play. The one that jumps to the top of my list is Jack. It's hard to fully state why. I just really love this character. I think part of it is Giants in the Sky, which I've performed before, though not on this channel, and is just a lot of fun to sing. I also just really love the enthusiasm and love that this character has. You can see how much love he has for his mother, even going so far as to sell his beloved cow just to help out. And when his mother ends up getting killed, his immediate reaction is to try to kill the person who killed her. I guess I just really love this character. I know I didn't say a lot about it, but I just think he would be a fun character to play. Number 5. Officer Lockstock from Urinetown the Musical. Once again, we have a character who's breaking the fourth wall to talk to the audience. And not only does he talk to the audience, but he also very specifically calls out the fact that this is a musical. Officer Lockstock is a police officer in the dystopian future where you have to pay to use the bathroom. Now, this may seem like a bizarre premise, and it is, but the musical knows it and flat out states it. Officer Lockstock, along with Little Sally, provides the audience with exposition and anything else that they may need to know throughout the musical. And like El Gallo, he plays a very important part in the story. But unlike El Gallo, he's not there to help the protagonists. He is, in fact, on the side of the antagonist. It's an interesting take on the narrator, kind of like the leading player, but without the ability to manipulate time. And again, I just really love breaking the fourth wall. Number 4. Dickon from The Secret Garden. Dickon is the eternal voice of hope and optimism throughout this entire musical. He's always there with a smile on his face and kind words to say. And I absolutely love that about him. He also plays the mentor character without being a wise old man. Dickon is another character that I was hesitant to include on this list because I think I may be a little bit too old for him. While he is portrayed as a bit older in the musical than he was in the books, I am currently 26, which I think might be a bit too old. However, I do look younger when I shave my facial hair off, so he's still here. And now we finally get to my top 3 dream musical roles. Number 3. Hysterium from A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Remember back when I talked about Leopold Bloom and how I enjoy playing hysterical characters? Hysterium, as his name implies, is the epitome of hysterical characters. He's simply trying to live his life and follow orders, but he keeps constantly having to deal with Pseudolus and his wacky schemes. His song, I'm Calm, is a perfect example of why I want to play this character so much. It's quick-paced and perfectly embodies everything about this character as he tries and fails miserably to stay calm. Number 2. Snoopy from You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I love dogs. I always have. And Snoopy is one of the most famous dogs out there. He has everything that you can expect from a dog who can somehow walk around on his hind legs. He's energetic, enthusiastic about everything, especially food. He sings and dances, and he doesn't let anyone tell him how he should live his life. When someone thinks dog, they more often than not will think Snoopy. I have wanted to play this part ever since I realized that it was a part that I could play. And for quite some time, it was at the very top of my list. And still to this day, I really, really want to play this part. And there has only been one part that has surpassed it. Number 1. Leaf Coneybear from 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. I have talked about this musical before and how much I love it. From the moment I saw it, it became my all-time favorite musical. And while I have seen and heard a lot of great musicals since then, it's still my all-time favorite musical. And Leaf Coneybear is my favorite character from this musical. I just love how much he doesn't seem to care what other people think. He creates his own clothes, which appears to be designed to stick out. His song goes all over the place, sometimes staying on topic, but more often than not rambling off on whatever pops into his head. And at the end of his time in the spelling bee, he's not upset. He's happy that he was able to get as far as he did. He was able to say that what his parents and siblings have told him his entire life, that he was stupid and wouldn't amount to anything, was wrong. He is smart, and I just find that super inspiring. So those are my top 15 dream musical roles. I don't know if I'll be able to play every single one of those roles, but I would certainly not complain if they were offered to me. That's this video. I will see all of you tomorrow.